Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome. If you can take your seats or if you can find a seat, that would be great. You're always welcome to go up and get more treats from any direction that you find them. And we'll get started here. First, I want to introduce myself. My name is Arthur Espinoza, and I'm honored to be here as a member of the Wings Advisory Council and as a champion of healing. I know that some of you know each other, but I know that some of you don't know each other. So I'm going to ask you to take 30 seconds and introduce yourself to someone that you have not met who's near you, either at your table or at the table next to you. Wonderful. Thank you guys for meeting someone new. This night, like so much of the work of Wings, is about community. So thank you guys for taking a second and making a new friend, meeting someone you hadn't met before. That's community, and that's part of what we do to build not only ourselves, but to build that community. I've been connected with Wings since 2014. And what inspires me year after year is the extraordinary courage and the resilience of this community. Are you guys, can everyone hear me okay? Yeah, if you can't hear me, throw something at me. And then if you have a good arm, I'm gonna hire you for the Rockies. People here show us how struggle can become strength and how healing can grow into hope. So we're gathered here at a very special time. This happens to be Childhood Sexual Abuse Survivor Awareness Month, or CSA-SAM. We're here tonight because we're going to recognize the journey of survivors and to highlight the hope and the healing that's completely possible with our work together as a community. So in that same spirit, we're coming together, old friends and new, just as we did, new allies with a shared purpose. We want to create a space where adult survivors are seen, believed, and supported. So thank you very much for being here. Each of you are a vital part of this community, and I'm happy to see you all. Now, before we begin, there's a few housekeeping things that I want to tell you about. So, real quickly, take a moment to silence your cell phone so we can all enjoy our time together. Our gathering is being recorded, so thank you to those of us who are joining us and watching the live stream now, and those that will watch us in replay later. In the building, the men's and women's restrooms are in the hallway where you entered, just past the GEMS exhibit there, the Coors GEMS exhibit. You'll find the all-gender restrooms there in that area as well. There's also a self-service coat check. If you should need that, you can help yourself to that. Soon you're going to be hearing from our Wings board member, Ash Bassim, on exactly why this mission of Wings is so important. We're going to have a land and people acknowledgement after that. And then the wonderful executive director of Wings, Jenny Stith, will be here. She'll be sharing and addressing the serious and important nature of why childhood sexual abuse trauma is a vital health equity issue. And later on, we're going to have some awards that are going to exemplify what it means to be a champion of healing. And then we're going to reveal our new Wings Online Learning Center and the Champion of Healings series. So that's just a little preview of what's coming up. We're going to close out with a powerful voice of a survivor who found healing through the services of Wings. And then we're going to reflect together on how we all can inspire and support continued activities that Wings is doing through becoming champions of healing. So now you know where we're headed, and I'd like to take a moment to recognize some of the partners who made tonight possible. So hold your applause, but I want to offer our heartfelt thank you to the Denver Museum of Nature and Science for welcoming us into this inspiring space, a building that is filled with community itself, and those at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science here who are with us and helping us, all the staff members, they're absolutely amazing. So I want you to help me in giving them a round of applause. Not only do they do the work to help guests that come in and out of here every day, but they're helping people learn, and that's such an important aspect to building our community. We're also very deeply grateful to Insperity and Kaiser Permanente, the sponsors of tonight's event. Let's give them a round of applause. Their partnership is absolutely essential in making gatherings like tonight for Wings possible. And to every individual and organization who's contributed their time, their talent, their money to our healing-centered mission, your support is both needed, especially now, but it's also warmly appreciated. I thank you. We all thank you. Give yourselves a round of applause. Now, if you will give me one more round of applause for our tech crew and our persons who are joining us to help the live stream. They've done a fantastic job this evening. Everyone here has done really well. And finally, many of you know them, but the Wings staff, the contractors, the facilitators, their dedication, their compassion, and their hard work make everything that we do possible. From support groups to education to tonight's celebration. Please, one more round of applause for the Wings staff. And now, please welcome the museum's CFO and the chair of the Wings board, Ash Basim.
Good evening. Thank you for that introduction, and especially your remarks about the museum being part of the community. That's everything to us. I'm Ash Basim, CFO of the museum here, and the board chair for the Wings Foundation, proudly. I am proud to be a champion of healing. On behalf of the museum, thank you so much for being here. This is a very special gathering. And on behalf of the Wings board, I also want to thank you for making the choice to share your evening with us. As many of you know, childhood sexual abuse is an issue that is all too often overlooked and dismissed and ignored by our society. And today, as we navigate a culture where survivors' experiences are still too often minimized, and where real threats to accountability and justice for all victims of CSA are on the rise, the need for awareness, community, and action has never been greater. At Wings, we're addressing these issues head on by creating systems of support for adult survivors of childhood sexual abuse, combining in-depth health expertise with the healing power of community. Through customized phone consultations, therapist referrals, weekly therapist-facilitated support groups, education, and outreach efforts, we support adult survivors of CSA in transcending this trauma and living their fullest, healthiest lives. We firmly believe that healing happens in community. And that's why we're here tonight, together in courage and strength. There's never been a more important time to come together around this vital aim. Thank you again for being here. Now I'd like to welcome my fellow board member, my friend, my colleague, Mataji Amin, who's going to provide a land and people acknowledgement. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I am Mataji Amin, and I am proud to serve on the board with Ash, as well as to be a champion of healing in this space. And before I move forward, I just want to take a moment and celebrate you all. Your time is valuable, and we honor that you chose to share that time with us today. And so let's give a round of applause to you all as also champions of healings in this space. Before we move into our event tonight, we'd like to take a few minutes to acknowledge, with respect, that the land we are on today, known as Colorado, is unceded territory of the Arapaho, Cheyenne, and Ute nations. This was also a site of trade, gathering, and healing for numerous other native tribes, including the Lakota, the Ute, the Kiowa, the Comanche, the Apache, and Shoshone, and others. Wings wishes to take a moment of silence to acknowledge the violence and the genocide that was enacted against these communities and the impacts that this has had on the indigenous people who were here before us and the generations of their ancestors who carry their legacy forward, as well as those whose lives were lost. We also pause upon and honor the lives of survivors of violence that occurred at the Indian boarding schools, specifically, which often included physical and sexual abuse, as well as the loss of native language, culture, and tradition. With tonight, we not only celebrate survivors, champions, but we're also celebrating the indigenous survivors, healers, leaders who bring their resilience and wisdom forward in these times. To support their good work and move beyond acknowledgement, Wings is making a donation to the National Native American Boarding School Healing Coalition, who works to raise public awareness about the ongoing impact of these traumas, and to the Denver Indian Center, who supports and serves Native people locally here at the crossroads of Indian country. We encourage you all that after tonight, to continue your learning journey, get curious, challenge yourself and ask yourself, how might you continue to move their missions forward? With that, we thank you for your time once again, and I will turn it over to Arthur.
Thank you to Ash and Mataji. We're very grateful for your volunteerism, your support. We know it takes a lot from your day-to-day lives to do what you're doing, but also thank you for grounding us tonight in the history and in the moment and the feeling of what we have to recognize to move forward. So as we do that, as we move forward tonight, we hold in our hearts all those who are impacted by historic trauma and by systemic oppression, and we continue to commit to growing together toward compassion, toward healing. And now it's my pleasure and honor to introduce and welcome to the stage our Executive Director of Wings, Jenny Stith, to share more about our importance of recognizing CSA and trauma as a health equity issue.
Thank you, Arthur. Thank you all. I'm Jenny Stith. I'm so honored to serve as Wings Executive Director and to be with you here tonight as another champion of healing. I really appreciate Ash and Mataji also for your leadership, for your extraordinary solidarity with survivors who we are so honored to serve. And I want to thank all of our board members, our advisory council members, our Wisdom Keeper leaders, our state task force members, and all of our community partners as well, without whom we could not do our work. So if you would indulge me to please give a round of applause for all of those folks. As a survivor of childhood sexual abuse and having worked with survivors for more than a decade, there are many components of our work at Wings that I care deeply about. And near the top of that list, because it encompasses so many other things, is health equity. Health equity means everyone has the opportunity to live a healthy life, no matter who they are or what they've been through. It's about removing barriers like poverty, discrimination, or trauma that too often stand in the way of someone's health and well-being. In 1998, the landmark Adverse Childhood Experiences Study, or the ACE study, conducted by Kaiser Permanente and the CDC, proved what survivors have long known. Childhood trauma has profound impact on lifelong health. The study also illuminated that childhood sexual abuse is one of the most pervasive ACEs. It impacts 1 in 4 women, as you all well know, 1 in 6 men, or 1 in 5 people of all gender identities. Childhood sexual abuse trauma is strongly linked to chronic disease, mental health struggles, addiction, relationship difficulties and violence, and even early death through, sadly, suicide or dying early because of toxic stress over a lifetime. At Wings, we refuse to believe these outcomes are inevitable. Yet without access to vital information and specialized services to heal childhood sexual abuse trauma, adult survivors cannot make informed choices about their path to healing and justice. And without services being available, survivors face extensive barriers to healing. Which, by the way, is why I left healthcare and moved to Colorado and now work for Wings. I deeply, deeply believe in the priority of health equity for adult survivors. And so that's why we're uplifting addressing childhood sexual abuse as a pressing health equity need and priority, including centering the needs of adult survivors of intrafamilial sexual abuse or incest, survivors of color, LGBTQIA survivors, disabled survivors, and others who've experienced additional violence and marginalization. Every survivor deserves a process to heal. Yet many aren't even aware of how dramatically their lives may be currently impacted by unresolved childhood sexual abuse trauma, or that help is available. So that's why we're especially honored, grateful, and proud tonight to launch our new online learning center and share our Champions of Healing learning series with the world as a free global resource. Knowledge is power, and together we have created an essential platform of knowledge to help adult survivors of childhood sexual abuse understand their own experiences, overcome barriers to healing, and to encourage and empower a culture of friends, loved ones, allies, and professionals to support survivors on their healing journeys. It is never too late for adult survivors to talk about what happened to them and to take those first steps towards healing and recovery. And it is never too late for our culture to learn to help to hold the collective pain of childhood sexual abuse so that we can finally come to terms with it and engage in collective healing. Healing from childhood sexual abuse trauma is possible, and it's happening with the courage and strength that is in this room tonight, and in all of the places from which those of you on our live stream are joining from, or all the places that those who watch this in replay later on are also tuning in from. It's so important that you all know, all of you, all of us, how important and powerful we are in this process of collective healing. It truly does take each of us doing our part. So on that note, I'd like to transition us into the awards section of our evening, which Wings started years ago to recognize the vital courage and leadership that is needed to advance this issue. To put this into context, childhood sexual abuse is not a new problem, sadly. It's existed for centuries. But if we take the long view of history, efforts to bring this truth into the open are still relatively recent. This slide shows some of the key milestones where this issue began to be recognized as the serious health and justice issue that it is. One of the early milestones happened 63 years ago, and it's what we're going to recognize with this first award. So to do that, I'm going to turn it back to Arthur.
Hi, it's me again. This isn't on the script, but I wanted to let you know how important community is. But I'm going to ask you to thank one more person. Now, we have a little argument about this, but I believe the person we want to thank, in addition to those we're going to honor in just a moment, is a person named Valerie Harper. Now, some of you might know Valerie Harper, and I'm sorry we don't have a slide of Valerie Harper, but let me just tell you a little story. So she was an actress. Some people knew her from a TV show called Rhoda, and I was presenting her downtown at an event one evening. She didn't show up because it snowed, and I had to cancel the event. So I went to get something to eat. I sat down at a bar, very busy bar. This is not a plug, but it was called Root Down. I know it's great. I sat down, because the tables were full and I was hungry. And I sat next to this person at the bar, started to get to know them, asked them what they were doing. Come to find out that they're in the nonprofit world, as kind of I was at the time, and still am, actually. Anyway, so we're sitting there, we're talking, we get to know one another, and I learn a little bit about her work. And I'm impressed by this. And I said, that's really interesting. We started talking, we continued talking. And I was there with my sister, and she was there with her friend. They were both named Susan, oddly. You know, it's just the way things roll out. And as the night progressed, and we stayed in contact afterward, I came to find out a little bit more that we had other connections. Those community connections went beyond Root Down. They also went to the areas that I was working. And I happened to meet somebody who was involved in the board with Wings, who I knew before I knew this person, who I'm keeping stealthily quiet, but happens to be right here, Jenny. And that's how I met Jenny 11 years ago. Well, time passed, and she asked me to be involved in the organization, and I said, okay, I owe you now, but also Ellen was involved, so yay, Ellen. And what happened was, about 5 years of being involved in the organization, because as I'd mentioned, this is my 11th year, I was free to be able to talk about my childhood trauma because of my community, Jenny and Ellen. And I'm getting a little bit quiver-lipped because I've never said this in public, but I will tell you that you can heal, and it comes through community. And so my thanks is to Valerie Harper for bringing me to this moment. Oh, and Jenny and Ellen and everybody else who grew out of it after that. So anyway, we're going to go on and we're going to talk about a couple of other things. And the first thing we want to talk about is an award that we're going to give. Jenny talks so much about how leadership in this field and in recognizing the importance of this is important. And so I want to thank you. The first award tonight is the Drs. Ruth and C. Henry Kemp Horizons in Healing and Medical Research Award. Now, Wings created this award back in 2014 to recognize the leadership that's absolutely required to elevate CSA in the healthcare space. Drs. Ruth and C. Henry Kemp were leaders. They brought child abuse out of the shadows and into public health conversations. Really important work. And their groundbreaking research and advocacy in the 1960s and the 1970s transformed child abuse from a hidden family problem into a recognized medical and societal issue requiring protection, prevention, and ultimately care. Decades later, the challenge of advancing CSA trauma awareness, it remains. Not much has changed, but we keep working. And so the work of bringing it into the systems of additional care that can provide the support to adult survivors will be found, and they will heal. This kind of leadership that the doctors had is so important, and it takes that type of leadership for the people who have positions of influence to help all of us help others and to guide the way. So, in that vein, this year, Wings is incredibly proud to honor an individual with this prestigious award in recognition of their commitment to recognizing the needs of adult survivors of CSA, and in their work ensuring survivors are seen, heard, honored, and responded to by other providers in her network, Dr. Toya Ellis. Please join me in welcoming her.
And I'm going to tell you just a little bit more about these connections. Arthur, I appreciate you saying that because it really is important. And keep listening for that the rest of the night, because when we connected, Wings was very under-resourced. And I was very unconnected in Denver. And the connections you just mapped out also had their tentacles out throughout this room and were essential to us starting to build capacity, connecting the prior work of all of the people who had heroically led this organization forward. And so it's just, the tapestry is really important. And carrying that forward, we got to meet Dr. Ellis in 2016 when she was invited by a fellow physician and champion of healing, Dr. Josh Bloom, who's the last person to receive this award. He invited her to join our provider advisory committee for the One Voice Project, which was a community needs assessment that we got to conduct with the Colorado School of Public Health because of Kelty Failing, who heard about it through the first Wine, Wishes, and Wings event that we had because of you. And so if you're noticing the tapestry here, it's important. But Dr. Ellis served on that provider advisory committee and has really been involved ever since, bringing her expertise as an OBGYN, and really has been a champion in the Kaiser system, facilitating training on this issue for other of her colleagues, and most recently championing a research project that we're going to tell you more about. So I just think it's important to also say, in the face of systemic denial and invisibility of this issue in spaces where it should be more visible, it takes real courage and tenacity and consistency to be the one to stand up for the truth of what adult survivors have experienced. So Dr. Ellis, you have demonstrated that courage for the last 10 years, and you continue to do so. So we're very honored to recognize you with this prestigious award. Oh yeah, right here. But don't go, yep. Oh yeah, wait. Sorry. That's all right. Sorry, because we actually, for our second award, we want to recognize the important research project that Dr. Ellis and her colleagues conducted at the Kaiser East Clinic, which examined the impacts of a history of childhood sexual abuse trauma on levels of pelvic pain for patients coming in for OBGYN services. So to tell you more about that, we actually wanted you, Dr. Ellis, to set that up for the group.
Thank you so much again, Jenny, for the award. I really appreciate it, and I feel so fortunate to be here with you tonight and be able to participate in this very important research. So the research team that came together in collaboration with several departments, so it's very multidisciplinary, includes pediatrics, behavioral health, obstetrics, as well as the Division of Research led by Dr. Arnie Beck. The goal was to better understand the prevalence of childhood trauma and specifically childhood sexual abuse in the lives of pelvic pain patients and identify opportunities to better meet their comprehensive health needs. So it was a retrospective chart review of over 300 charts, and among the key findings were that a third of the study participants who were in the pelvic pain clinic filling out a 19-page form disclosed a history of physical, emotional, or sexual abuse. Of those individuals who did disclose a history of childhood sexual abuse, they had the most medical and mental health issues ongoing and in their ongoing concerns. And these findings affirmed what the earlier Kaiser research had shown about the impact of adverse childhood events, or ACEs, and it did, again, demonstrate that childhood sexual trauma can and does impact individuals' long-term health and points to the need for health systems to screen and refer patients to organizations like WINGS, which we are working on getting that a little more streamlined, who can support survivors in their healing journey. Our team at Kaiser Permanente looks forward to continued work with WINGS and opportunities to share research and better respond to survivors' needs. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ellis. We greatly appreciate the careful efforts this team made to consult with WINGS on this research project. They actually did quite a bit of preparation, held a focus group with survivors, including some who are in the room tonight, which is exactly the kind of advocacy that adult survivors need and deserve. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome up to the stage the Kaiser staff who made this research possible so they can be recognized. And we'll have them all come up, and then we'll give them all a big round of applause. So go ahead and make your way, and we will see if we can, yeah. So we're going to start with Dr. Arnie Beck. Amy Conley. Oh, sorry. Dr. Jennifer Kellogg. Brandy Lappy. And Erica Morse. And Dr. Toya Ellis. Thank you again to the Kaiser Permanente Colorado Division of Research. We do hope this effort will inspire more work to be done in the health and mental health spaces in Colorado. And you can see, once you get brought into the community, it's hard to leave. So there's a reason that we wanted you to be here tonight. And we hope it creates ripple effects for years to come. Back to you, Arthur.
Thank you. Now, as we mentioned earlier, WINGS has been examining the needs of adult survivors and accessing care here in Colorado since 2016, including through the One Voice and Many Voices projects. These efforts helped WINGS hear directly from adult survivors on the barriers to care that they've experienced when trying to get support for their childhood sexual abuse trauma. The number one and number two barriers named by survivors and providers alike were a high level of stigma about the issue and a lack of awareness about how prevalent it is and what survivors are facing. So this brings us to another project that we want to honor and celebrate. And to do that, I would like to invite WINGS Communications Coordinator Becky Harrison to tell us more.
Thank you, Arthur. All right, so hi, I'm Becky Harrison, WINGS Communication Coordinator, and I am proud to be a champion. All right, I am proud to be a champion of healing. For our next award, we turn to the role of education and storytelling in advancing healing. Knowledge truly is power, and changing culture requires breaking silence, reducing stigma, and making sure survivors and allies have access to the information they need about this issue. This year, WINGS is especially proud to honor Story Arc Learning with the Champions of Healing in Education and Storytelling Award. Over the past 3 years, Story Arc has partnered with WINGS to transform the 26 hours of survivor, loved one, and provider voices filmed by Rick Higgins and Greg Barecki and written content developed by WINGS into 2 distinct interactive e-learning courses. Throughout the process and through many iterations, Story Arc always approached this work with care, creativity, and respect for the survivors at its heart. They also brought their expertise in instructional design, which greatly benefited and shaped the format of the courses. Tonight, we recognize Story Arc, including Vanessa Frieden, Carly Hill, Pete Mercier, and Dr. Meredith Singleton for their dedication, partnership, and belief that knowledge and storytelling are essential to collective healing. Please join me in welcoming Story Arc CEO Meredith Singleton here on behalf of the Story Arc team to accept this award.
It is a little tricky there, isn't it, Becky? Yeah. Thank you, Becky, who also did a lot of work on that project, as did many members of our team. And thank you again to the entire Story Arc team. Hours and hours of work on this. And now we're really excited to share with you the project they helped bring to life. Now, we previewed this a couple years ago for some of you that were at our 40th, but we actually have done a lot of work on the course since then. And remember, this was created in response to the findings of our needs assessments, the high level of stigma, the lack of awareness being the biggest barriers to care. And those who are close to this issue will know that this issue does rise to the surface. There'll be a prominent story, there'll be conversation for weeks, but then the issue goes back underwater. And so we really need ways to keep this issue in the mainstream so that we can raise the type of awareness and action that it requires. So we're really hoping that by making Champions available for free to all, locally, nationally, and internationally, no survivor or loved one will feel alone in their healing journey. And loved ones, allies, and professionals everywhere will have access to a basic understanding of childhood sexual abuse, its impact on adult survivors, and how to respond with care and compassion. There are two distinct learning journeys to honor the needs of each audience. One is for adult survivors themselves, and the other is for allies, including loved ones, allies, and professionals. Each course has 5 modules, an introduction, and then an ABCD series. And it weaves the stories of 10 brave survivors and additional loved ones and professionals. In total, it's a little bit of a choose your own adventure, so you can watch some stories or you can watch all the stories. So it could take you between 2 to 3 hours to complete. But we always encourage people to take it at their own pace. So to illuminate how this series has been tailored for different learners and how we're trying to connect people to Wing Services once they watch the series, we're going to show you a few promotional videos. They're kind of like commercials for each intended audience. The first is for survivors. I'm here with you today as a survivor.
I had been abused sexually by my stepdad. You're not alone.
There will be people there to support you.
This is not an isolated issue.
In every community, 1 in 5 people have experienced childhood sexual abuse. Wings is here for survivors like you, encouraging space to heal and grow. We connect survivors with the tools, guidance, and community they need through referrals to counseling and other resources, educational programs, and a healing handbook to help guide your way. In Colorado, we offer support groups for adult survivors too. Now, we're introducing Champions of Healing for Survivors, an online course designed for adult survivors of childhood sexual abuse and those who wonder if they are survivors. Inside, you'll find survivor and loved one stories, expert-led sessions, and practical tools to help you navigate your healing journey. You'll have access to a diverse range of voices, a selected network of resources, so you never have to walk this path alone. It's more than learning. It's a pathway back to connection and community. Wherever you are starting today, we're here to support you. Visit the Wings website today to learn more.
You are not broken. It's never too late to start your healing.
Taking that first step is the step of many more to come.
This content is so good, you all. If you haven't been in this series yet, you have to watch it. We have the best people sharing their voices. But the second video we're going to show is actually for loved ones, and we have 2 loved ones videos. I can only show you one tonight. They're both amazing. This one is actually for loved ones who might have no knowledge about the issue and might be internalizing messages from culture like victim blaming.
In every community, 1 in 5 people have experienced childhood sexual abuse. Their journey to support and healing isn't always easy.
Things can get turned around. People who perpetrate violence, for some reason, have a knack of turning things around and put the blame in the wrong place.
For me, I was lucky because my family did believe me. and they did take my side. Others aren't.
Society likes to victim blame.
So when someone says, just get over it, that is absolutely the most invalidating, shaming thing that you can say to a person.
All of those therapists said that it was not an issue, not abuse.
It's hard to really realize that somebody that you love is doing something so horrific to a child that you love.
Adult survivors are counting on you to understand what they've gone through. Survivors deserve belief, support, and affirmation. We can all learn how to provide these. The Champions of Healing for Allies online course is designed for loved ones, allies, and professionals. It empowers loved ones with the resources they need to begin supporting survivors. Inside, you'll find survivor and loved one stories and practical tools to help you support the survivors in your life on their healing journeys. You'll have access to a diverse range of voices, a self-care library, and a connected network of resources, so you never have to walk this path alone. Healing from childhood sexual abuse takes all of us doing our part. Your choice to lean in and support survivors makes a real difference. Visit the Wings website today to learn more.
When a survivor is disclosing to you what they went through as a child, it's important that you believe them.
Initially, just listen and be open-minded and listen and be receptive to what your loved one is saying or not saying, and try and just take it in and then educate yourself.
Again, loved that one. And there's another one that we'll email you later on too. But the final video is for providers.
In every community, 1 in 5 people have experienced childhood sexual abuse.
This really is a public health emergency.
I was struggling deeply, not knowing what to do to cover pain and cope with what was going on.
This is not an isolated issue. This is actually something that's much more common than many people realize.
I didn't know how to cope with life, and so I was trying to just run from it.
Over the years, I had a lot of different health issues. I saw my primary care doctor repeatedly, like 19 times.
As a provider, it's important that you can recognize the symptoms of childhood sexual abuse in the lives of the adults you support. You may encounter people at different stages of their healing process. Wings can help you understand how trauma from childhood sexual abuse affects adults. Champions of Healing for Allies is an online course designed for loved ones, allies, and professionals. Inside, you'll find survivor and loved one stories and practical tools to help you learn about people at different stages of their healing journeys. You'll have access to a diverse range of voices, a self-care library, and additional reference resources. Healing from childhood sexual abuse cannot be on the shoulders of survivors alone. It takes all of us, learning and growing together to support survivors' healing. Wherever you're starting today, we're here to guide you.
Our communities are in need of long-term care. People can change their trauma into techniques and tools that help better themselves and their family.
I'm so sorry that happened.
I'm going to listen to you. And together we'll figure out what our next step is. We'll take it one step at a time.
Take the first step toward becoming a champion of healing today. Visit the Wings website to learn more.
I'm just so grateful to have created this with all of you, and we're really honored to share it with you. And we'll have ways that you can help us share it with the community after tonight. So Arthur, take us through the basics of becoming a champion of healing.
Thanks, Jenny. It's really an honor for me to be able to discuss the ABCDs of becoming a champion of healing. In the Champions model, A is for acknowledge. Recognize the reality of childhood sexual abuse. Understand its impact on adults and consider how to begin the healing journey. if this issue has happened in your life. B is for believe. Learn about the challenges of disclosure and know how to respond with care and compassion when someone shares their story. C is for connect or community, but we'll say connect. Discover the power of healthy relationships and community. Explore services that are available and learn how to connect with them. D is for demonstrate. Use your voice, take action, and help transform our culture into one where everyone can thrive. So we've all learned a little bit about this. You've heard champions of healing. Now I'm going to ask you to look on your tables. You're going to find some magnets that highlight these ABCDs. Take one home. Take it as a reminder of the power that you have to expand on this collective healing that comes from childhood sexual abuse trauma. The magnet also includes the web address for signing up to become champion. It's also on the screen, and it's in your programs, so you're not going to get away from that QR code, just so you know. And as we celebrate the official launch of Wings and this incredible new online learning center and the Area for Champions series, we would all be remiss to not mention the incredible survivors, the loved ones, the providers, the contractors, our Wings staff, our funding partners who are actually making this possible. If you were featured in the series at all, in any way that we produced or reviewed the series, and whatever your involvement might have been, or if you invested in development of this series through some financial support, do me a favor so we can all see. Please stand now if you have any involvement in this series. Stand as you're able. Raise your hand if you can't. We want to recognize you all. Thank you so very much. Amazing. Louder. Give them a hand. Each of you, thank you. Each of you, including those who couldn't be here or those that are joining us on the live stream, we appreciate that. You strengthened the project. You deepened our understanding of what it means to be helped and healed through community. You've also helped ensure that those impacted by CSA know that it's okay to talk about what happened, even if you're on a stage in front of a bunch of people you don't know. And that any shame that you feel isn't yours to hold. And that's the most important part. Now, before we move on tonight, I want to extend a special thanks to the series participants who addressed issues of historic, cultural, and identity-based trauma in the Champion series. Your perspective and your voices help shine a light on why collective healing from CSA must include acknowledgement of the intersecting identities. We deeply appreciate your contributions, and we want to express our continued commitment to making all of Wings services and offerings culturally responsive and trauma-informed. It's important also to underscore, as Jenny shared with us in her health equity highlight, that it's essential that adult survivors have two basic needs met: knowledge about what they've gone through and access to specialized services designed to help them heal. So one of the things that excites me most about the Champions of Healing platform and making it available worldwide is expanding that access. I don't live in Colorado anymore, but I love it just the same. I don't know that my community has these services or such a strong organization as we have in Colorado. So now, through this online healing platform, we've just expanded our reach and therefore hope to heal and help others. So as we move into the next part of the program, we have the honor of hearing directly from a Wings support group graduate who courageously shared her story at last October's Speak Out event. Please welcome Sam Velez. And Sam's going to share about her healing journey and why accessing the services is so important for survivors. Thank you, Sam.
I'm afraid to touch this thing again. Okay. Thanks, Arthur and Wings, for inviting me to speak today, and thank you all for being here. Sorry, I'm kind of getting over a cough. As a CSA survivor, I can tell you this experience is a solitary one for most, but it doesn't have to be. I was living in Wyoming when I started my healing journey, and there were no services for CSA survivors. My trauma therapist told me to go to AA and see others sharing because it was one of the only groups in town. Actually, the groups, there was two things to choose from. But never having struggled with alcohol, I was always the odd one out in these spaces with shares that didn't fit the group rules and that no one engaged with. I was always, like I said, I was always the odd one out, and I didn't know where I fit in or if finding a group for me was even possible. When I moved back to Denver, I was anxious to find a community and a group for CSA. But even moving back to a big city did not make this easier. I contacted several organizations, but all of their groups were full. I joined multiple wait lists, and Wings was the only one that got back to me. I was surprised by how welcoming the intake process was. The survivor first approach made me feel less afraid and actually excited to finally be a part of something designed for me. I quickly joined a support group, and other survivors validated me about the challenges I was facing, navigating relationships, setting boundaries, and dealing with big feelings. And I cannot overemphasize how valuable being in group was during the 2 years that I spent going to court to see my abuser sentenced. As my seniority in group grew, I went from being a bit timid and self-conscious to being really excited to support and welcome new members. Try to picture for a moment what it's like holding a secret alone for most of your life, and then being in a room full of people who understood you and supported you in a compassionate and safe space. This is some of the deepest and most meaningful work a survivor can do. I participated in Speak Out, a Wings event dedicated to hearing survivors' stories. I told my story to a conference room full of people who are ready to listen and support us. I am so privileged to have had this experience. We were supported the entire time by fellow speakers and Wings facilitators and staff. Today, I no longer live feeling like this horrific part of my life will always make me different and not like other people. Most of all, I have friends from both groups. We meet up regularly, support one another, and we don't get awkward or change the topic when CSA comes up. A lot of them are here right now, which is really great. So, the work that Wings does to support adult survivors of CSA and the Champions of Healing series is more impactful than I can describe to you in words. The first step to healing is hearing someone else's story, and that is how I first started accepting what happened to me. Seeing survivors in these videos who look like us, talk like us, and understand the cultural context that we navigate will help more survivors start their healing. Whether you're a survivor, a loved one, a support person, an ally, or a healthcare provider, you have power to hold someone's hand, honor their journey, and provide life-changing support. especially when accessibility to much needed resources is more often than not impossible for many of us, or nearly impossible. So for every survivor living through these times, you are not alone. There is a community waiting for you. Now I should have brought water up here, sorry. Now more than ever, okay, it's water. Thanks. Probably ask for what you need until you're not at the end of your speech. That's a skill, okay. Now more than ever, we have to protect these life-affirming services. Healing is possible, and we have a right to it. My story is just one story, but there are countless other survivors waiting for a chance to heal, for a space like Wings. In these sobering times, it is up for us to make sure these services remain available, and to let survivors know that they don't have to face this road in solitude. So thank you, everyone here today, for everything that you do, and thank you to the staff and facilitators at Wings and everyone in the Champions series.
Go away just yet. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sam, for sharing your journey with us. Your story reminds us of why Wings exists and why it's so critical to have services such as this for people to turn. So please accept these flowers on our behalf as a token of our appreciation. We very much appreciate that. And now please welcome Jenny once again to tell you a little bit more about the critical situation that Wings is facing. Thanks, Jenny.
Thanks, Arthur, and thank you, Sam, so much for sharing your experiences with us. We truly appreciate it. At Wings, we've been honored to champion the needs of adult survivors of childhood sexual abuse and their loved ones for the last 42 years. And we are committed to ensuring that we can continue to do so for the next 42 and beyond. That said, I want to pause and acknowledge some of the difficult realities that we're all facing in culture right now. And I know we're all feeling it, because we're living in a moment where harmful power over ideologies are on the rise. These are the beliefs that some people are entitled to dominate, control, or devalue others. Of course, this is especially concerning to us because it's these very attitudes that create the violence that we are working so hard to heal from and help others heal from. We're also living at a time where efforts to silence survivors and minimize the reality of abuse by those in positions of power and authority are increasing. And where scapegoating and violence toward vulnerable communities is an ever-present threat. This cultural climate makes Wings' mission more important and more urgent than ever. And yet, just as the need for our work is growing, the resources to sustain it and others working in the fields of mental health and sexual trauma recovery are shrinking in some of the traditional spaces. So it's indeed a concerning time. And heading into next year, we do have to share that Wings is facing a pretty steep funding cut, certainly in the federal funding arena, for money that we've advocated for so strongly the last several years and been successful at. So we are really wanting to be proactive getting ahead of that reduction because it threatens not only the services that survivors depend upon, but also the vital health literacy and education efforts that help dismantle the stigma that we've talked about and open doors to healing. So in the face of this adversity, we obviously want to remain strong because adult survivors and loved ones are depending on us to do so. And I just have to say, having done this work for more than a decade, working shoulder to shoulder with so many of you, that I can say with pride and with devotion and with ongoing commitment that we're up for the challenge And it's really an invitation to create a sustainable movement for adult survivors, one that is inclusive, collaborative, generative, and ongoing, one that will stand this test of time. I believe in my heart that we can do it. So that's why tonight we are not only celebrating the launch of Champions of Healing as a new resource, we are also launching Champions of Healing as a movement to break stigma, expand awareness, and ensure survivors everywhere are seen, believed, and supported, not just today, but for generations to come. On that note, I'd like to acknowledge that the Champions of Healing movement and Wings work builds on the shoulders of giants that are in the room tonight that I'm looking at, and that are also watching potentially on the live stream or maybe in replay, or certainly we're holding in our hearts. So this is why we dedicated the online series to Wings founders, torchbearers, some of the leaders who've carried the organization forward over 4 decades, our wisdom keepers and partners who helped us understand the need to honor historical cultural trauma experiences. And leaders like Marilyn Vanderber Atler, Larry Atler, and Jennifer Atler, who have spoken out so often about these issues, and I'm thinking of teaching others how to respond. Many of the things that we've learned from all of you, we've woven into this Champion series, but just know that we know where that wisdom came from. So you all of you, everyone that I've mentioned, has helped us stand forward with dignity and pride, with courage and resilience. So I want to thank all of these leaders for their courageous leadership and give them a round of applause, our founding leaders and everybody I just mentioned. If we could do that, give a round of applause. We pledge to carry this movement forward in your honor. And if you agree with us, if we will very much invite you into that invitation, we'd like you to look at that Champions of Healing card on your table. It's an action card, and on it you will find different ideas for ways that you can take action individually in your own life, and maybe at your organization, if that should apply to you, to use your own personal power to ensure that healing will continue. And Arthur started that with giving examples of how an easy conversation turned into so much of what we're talking about tonight. So never underestimate what one of these actions, or one that's not even listed, could actually do for this movement. Before you leave tonight, please leave the card and our staff will collect it, and then we'd like to follow up with you and have a conversation about how to really engage you in this movement. It's important to note, there's no single way to be a champion. What matters is that together we act each in the ways that we can, because together, in courage and strength, this is how we'll realize our shared power.
Hi. How are you guys doing? We're almost done. I appreciate your patience, and I hope the chairs are comfortable. I hope the food was good, and I want to thank Jenny. I want to thank her because the services that Wings does, all the things that they do, are really important. They're vital right now. You've heard her talk about the funding cuts. We've heard about funding cuts, and now it's hitting home. And I think together we can ensure that we can find a way for this present situation to help affect a new future for us. So, on that note, I'd like to mention that Wings is creating a new giving society called Generations of Healing. This is for individuals that want to be part of this mission and this legacy, and leave a legacy by making a planned gift to Wings. So if you're interested, if you have the capacity, if you'd like to learn more about joining and becoming a supporter, and include yourself in the name of people who've given lift to someone else, given hope and healing to someone else, then this is the opportunity for you to consider making a gift. There's a place on your action card, I believe, where you can do that, and the staff can get in touch with you specifically about that. And Jenny also shared earlier that 2026 was a very difficult year for Wings. Well, it will be a very difficult year for Wings as it is because of these cuts. It's a lot. So let me give you a number. The organization is facing a cut. What number? How much do you think we're cutting?
Yeah. Oh my. 50%.
Yeah, it's a lot. So can you imagine somebody says, hey, we want you to do what you're doing, but you're only going to give you a little bit of what you had. So this cut is going to equal about $244,000 that's going to affect the services. That's why it's so important that we're offering the access a little bit wider, but we're doing that for free. You don't have to pay to get that, but we need support. The staff, the board, the volunteers, they're working really hard. Let's give them a round of applause because they're trying to bridge this gap. Now, we're really lucky because if you can help us out, they're trying to raise $25,000 before the end of the year. It could even happen tonight if we've got a generous person here. $25,000 is only a little bit of that $244,000 cut. That's just 10% of that federal funding that's gone away. And yet every year, every dollar makes a big difference. And every year need increases and we find new people. So in 2026, this will include funding programs like Wings donation-based therapist facility support groups that operate Monday through Friday every week, as well as the specialty offerings, such as the monthly writing group, equine experiences, and the 6-week Loved Ones program. Wings outreach and education program that brings awareness about the long-term consequences of CSA and healing opportunities to the community and to the provider networks. And Wings clinical training program that builds support group for facilitators, competency, and their skills. It's important to note that when an adult realizes that they've been sexually abused as a child, not easy. It's a very difficult time in a person's lives. Imagine when you've been told that twice. Some people have heard that story. Not only was a person abused by one family member, they were abused by another, and they didn't know that. So these are the kinds of things that make it difficult, and likely navigating this is really important. We know that. But many can't do it because they don't have the financial need. They don't even have the resources. So that's why Wings donation-based services are so important. They don't turn anyone away because they can't afford to come. That's awesome. And recognizing the urgency of this moment and the importance of these offerings, there was a generous donor who stepped up and offered to match that $25,000 goal with $25,000. So together, in courage and strength, the campaign goal is starting today, tonight, right here. And we'll be matching the first month's donations that you make, because I know you're going to want to. For each new recurring gift made to Wings, up to $5,000 on top of the regular match, which means your monthly gift goes 3 times further in supporting survivors and the champions of healing movement that we're building together. Now you may be thinking, Arthur, that sounds awesome, but I can't help. I can't donate. I give up my time. There's other ways I can do. So that's fine. Don't worry about that, because there is a place for everyone in this movement. Use your time, use your testimony, build the social ties. Even if you don't know Valerie Harper, you can find a way to connect. And by the way, bless her, she was really sweet. She's passed, but she's really sweet. We encourage you to use that power that you have of connection. Everyone was asked this evening to meet someone new when we started the evening. So before we leave tonight, I'm going to also ask you to say goodbye to that someone new, because that's how it starts. It begins somewhere, but it continues elsewhere. So you can do this in a number of ways. You can host a small event. You can have a special fundraiser. Heck, we had a wine gathering to raise awareness. Anybody in here like wine? Okay, you don't have to admit it, but it's okay. But that's the kind of things that we can do. You can even put a post on social media. There's a lot of ways that you can get involved. Look at the list. There's so many things. And for those that want to take advantage of matching these gifts and these matching gift opportunities, just look at the QR code on the back page of your program, on the table tents, link, donate now. It's that easy. Yes, this is that kind of an event. We tell you about the impact of our work, and then we say, we really need your help. So think about how you can help. Everyone here has a beautiful soul and a beautiful heart. You wouldn't be here if you didn't care. There's also a donation envelope on the table for cash or check donations, and we invite you to give those to some of our staff members before you leave. Does anybody actually have a checkbook with them? Okay, good, because I don't even have a checkbook anymore. God, that's been years. So whether you choose to join Wings monthly with a gift of $5 or $5,000, your contribution is going to make a big difference to us. It's going to combine with these other matching opportunities. It's going to help sustain the programs that are so wonderfully delivered and received through Wings. And it's going to help people heal. After all these years, I didn't even know about Wings, and it helped me. So there's a lot of opportunities that you can help raise this. You can make some tax-smart gifts. You can give a gift of stock. You can give a gift from your IRA. Anything that you have, there's ways that you can do this. If you have a donor advised fund, we can help you there. If you're part of a foundation, if you know someone who's part of a foundation, let's build the connections. This is how it works. It's beautiful, Mary. It really works. Be sure to indicate your interest in the ways that you can on these forms. We're happy to talk to you about that. It's an action card. It is to act. It is to make that happen. And if that speaks to you, we thank you. We heart you. And now, as stated earlier, there's no single way to be a champion of healing. Just take a look at that, find what works for you, and consider how you can make a difference. This really is a movement for everybody, even those that are watching in live stream, and especially those that are going to watch this later. And the more we can talk about the realities of the bummer of childhood sexual abuse, the more we can break the stigma. Now I got 2 microphones. We can build collective power. That's how it works. We can ensure that those people who are impacted by this have the opportunity, quite frankly, to live a really full and meaningful life. We all want that. We want that for ourselves. Why wouldn't we want the same for people in our community? Can I get some WD-40? It's probably a little late. Anyway, thank you guys. Thank you all for being here tonight. It takes a lot for those that supported the program and helped develop it. Thank you for your courage, for your strength. It's really important that we wrap up by being a community. So do me a favor and take some of the food home, because that helps, and share that with somebody else, and then tell them what you did tonight. But also, be sure to say goodnight to the person that you met. But stick around. The food's going to be here for a while, so don't rush off. The QR codes aren't going anywhere. And stop by the Wings outreach table over there. We've got a bunch of materials that you can take with you, things you can think about, ways that you can share the information, and grab a photo. Make sure we get your photo. We'd love to share our photos. And if you do use that, try our hashtag, Healing Happens in Community. You can leave your action cards with staff up there. You can leave them on the table. And lastly, on the high top tables in the back, some of you already saw this, and you're seeing one here on the lectern that's right beneath me. There are pieces of artwork that were created for Wings by employees of NBC Universal with the intention of providing the Wings community inspiration and hope. They're cute little things. They're really wonderful. Please check them out and read the discussion prompts that are in the back of them. You might find something that you connect with even deeper. So thank you very much for being here. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for listening to all these wonderful things, the stories, the inspiration, the remarkable work that many of our professionals are doing in the industry. And I want to leave you with a quote from Coretta Scott King. She said, "The greatness of a community is most accurately measured by the compassionate actions of its members." So please, Go forth. Don't forget to say goodnight. Don't forget to make a new friend even on the way out, and continue as a champion of healing for all of us. Thank you and good night. Here, have a drink.